Hello, my loves. It has been an interesting start to 2025. And this morning, I felt intuitively guided to come on and just share a message with you guys in hopes that it may open some minds, open some hearts, shift some perspectives and paradigms. When we understand not just our own multidimensionality and the fact that we are shifting versions of ourself and versions of Earth hundreds of times a day. And they may be just slight adjustments, they may be big adjustments, but that is what's happening every single day. It isn't just, oh, I woke up and there's a timeline shift or I shifted timelines. We are shifting versions of ourselves and versions of Earth hundreds of times a day. But in addition to that, this is a co-creative experience. So that means that we are collectively creating the world in which we are interacting with and seeing. And that's important to understand because this is the whole premise why we are here to be the change, right? Why we should be that in which we seek. If you don't like what you see in the world, go home and look in the mirror and make changes and make sure that you are presenting yourself and you are um, interacting with the world in the way in which you are personally seeking. But as we move into higher frequencies, and this is what we have talked about and called the shift or the timeline split. Um, Again, I've been channeling on this since 2016. I know people have been channeling on it for many, many years, and we are in the split right now. The split has already begun. It's already happening. And as more and more people move into what is referred to as the new earth frequencies or those fifth dimensional frequencies, it's not that you don't see the other frequencies. It's not that you don't see the other world. You do, but it almost is like you're looking at it through a looking glass, right? It doesn't affect you. If somebody was, if something was happening to someone behind a piece of, really thick glass, you're just observing it. You're just witnessing it. It has no real effect on you. And that is important to recognize and understand because sometimes we can feel as we walk on this journey a bit detached or like unemotional. Why aren't you upset about this? Why aren't you angry about this? Why aren't you sad about this? Well, I'm observing it. It doesn't have an effect on my nervous system because that's not the world I live in. So there's that piece that we really want to make clear because there's two really stark, different versions of the world that are super clear. Again, we are all shifting and changing versions of Earth hundreds of times a day. So there's micro adjustments that happen. But when we're talking about the big picture and the big split, it will seem like, or as if, you are living in a different world than someone else's. The best example, human example I can give is when a couple of years ago, I was trying to have a discussion with my mother. Um, when I expressed to her how I saw things and how I felt about things, and this was not about the world stage, this was about my personal life, it was met with opposition and resistance because it was so different than how she saw me and how she saw my life. And no matter how much I tried to convince her otherwise, which is crazy because it's my life, right? I couldn't convince her. And there's a bigger reason why I bring in this story because there's a lot happening on the world stage. And recently, in the last couple of days, there's been a lot of videos and reels and posts going around different social media platforms about different things that happened at the inauguration or different things that have happened in different circumstances and events, and how stark the contrast is between the way people perceived those words and actions. How can two people, three people looking at the same circumstance or situation see things so incredibly different? My human mind, my ego struggles with this, but my consciousness, my soul, right, knows exactly why it's happening. We see things through a lens of perspective. Every single person on the planet sees things through a lens of perception, which is what we call our perspective, right? That lens of perception is made up of your ancestral programming. It's made up of your fears, your own personal programming from childhood, and your beliefs. So as you see something or experience something, whether you're hearing it, visualizing it, smelling it, whatever sense you're bringing it into, you're bringing that energy into your field. It's passing through a lens of perception. And again, that lens is made up of those things. And it skews the information, it alters and changes the information. And that's how you interpret it. So when you are seeing things on TV, in real life, on the world stage, in your own personal reality, in your own family, and you have this conflict of where other people see one thing and you see another, and you just can't get to the meeting of the minds, you just can't get to that space. I want you to remember this and understand that you can't convince somebody who has a differing lens of perception unless they have an open mind and they are not attached to that perception. That perception often is tied to identity, especially when we're looking at historical events in the world and things that are tied to our lineage, whether that comes with race, whether that comes with persecution of religion, or maybe a very large traumatic world event that happened. It doesn't really matter what it was. But if there is an identity, a story, something that we're holding onto with it is that it creates this intense belief, that is a limit. And when we have a limit, that means we're not open. When you have an open mind, when you have an open perception, you can still have your view, your perspective, but when someone offers you something different, instead of it hitting a wall, which is the limit, and bouncing off and being abruptly pushed back through defense, through anger, through whatever it may come at, right? You see this where people fight in the comment sections, where people fight in real life and in their family events over politics, over relationships, over anything. When there's a limit, the information coming in immediately hits that wall when there's a differing perception and is projected back with anger, again, frustration, aggression, defense. But we only defend what we doubt. So if you find yourself defending the situation, the circumstance, the person, or yourself, you are actually showing yourself where there's cracks in your own consciousness, where there's defense in your own consciousness, right? Because if you know something, like you wouldn't fight with somebody over what your birthday is. You wouldn't fight with somebody that the sun is shining. You wouldn't fight somebody that the rain is going to stop and the sun's going to shine again. That fall, spring, winter, all of these seasons happen and come and go. There are things that we innately know. But those things also have to do with you. You innately know who you are and what you believe. So if you believe it with all of your being, there's nothing to devout. If someone wants to tell you the sky's purple, you'd be like, okay, whatever. I don't care because I know the sky's blue. I don't need to defend it. That limit, that wall that people hit, might as well be denial. And when you're trying to convince somebody of something else when they're in denial, you only push them more further into denial. So you have to let people be where they are. Let people be where they are. Let people have a differing belief than you. Let people see things completely different than you. Let them. When you allow someone else's beliefs and perceptions and perspectives to affect you and get you riled up, you are giving them your power. You are telling them that they have power over you. The person who agitates and angers you has the power over you because you gave it to them. Nobody can have power over you unless you give it to them. So we don't need to convince other people of our belief systems for our belief systems to be true. Because at the end of the day, everybody's lens of perception, everybody's view is true. Because again, there are infinite versions of Earth. There are infinite versions of this game. There are infinite versions of you. So if that is the universal truth, then everybody's perception or perspective or viewpoint is true because that's how they see and how they are playing and how they are interacting in this game that we call reality. So I hope this gives you a little bit more understanding because as we move forward over the next few years, over the next 10 years. Yeah, but the next few years are going to be the most dramatic or intense because we are in one of the biggest shifts we chose to be here at this time for this exact shift. If you even look at the astrology, right? Let's look at it from a more pseudoscience perspective, right? Let's look at astrology. The transits, the mass major transits that are happening this year and the sheer number of them that usually only happen once a generation, right? Like we don't normally see these big shifts. The last time we saw some of these big shifts was when we had revolutions, when we had falls of civilizations, falls of kingdoms. We are going to go through our own fall of Rome. Are the United States and other countries, as we've already seen, many other countries are already beginning to fall. We are going through a massive deconstruction because we are building new earth. And the only way to build something new is to deconstruct the old. You can't build something new on top of something old. It just can't happen. So there's going to be catalyzing events that allow for the fall of our own civilization. It doesn't mean that we're going to be an apocalyptic. It doesn't mean that, we need to be prepping and doomsday. It's not fear-based. It's let it fall. Let it deconstruct. The more we fight with it, the more we fight with each other, the more we allow fear and the fear frequencies that are being put out into the world to affect us, the more division we create, the more suffering we create for ourselves and for society. So the more you can observe what's happening without getting emotionally entangled in it and pulled down into those lower frequencies, the faster we will move through this shift and into the other side of things. The easier it will be, the less there will be of suffering. It doesn't mean there still won't be circumstances, right, that affect you in your personal life. But again, if you understand that everything is actually always happening for you and for us and for the betterment of our world, the more you can allow things to happen. There's going to be a lot of things that could be shocking or wild to watch. and experience. And some people are going to be obviously involved in those things. Observation, trust, faith, surrender. These are the qualities that you are here to master at this time. It's something that I've been teaching and preaching. The guides have been speaking through me for the last few years. And now we're here. Now we're going to be tested on these things. How much can you befriend uncertainty? How much can you allow yourself to sit in the discomfort of uncertainty without clawing or grabbing onto the sides, fighting with it, trying to change it, trying to fix it? How well can you sit in that energy? How well can you surrender and allow yourself to flow and know that if you're being met with obstacles and oppositions, you are focusing too much on the worry, the doubt, the fear of what is happening in your circumstances. So surrender, let go. How much can you trust in yourself that you will be okay and that you will figure it out no matter what is happening? And have faith and that what you want to see, what you want to feel, and what you want to experience will be. Like I mentioned in my 2025 Year Ahead podcast, our current circumstances are a reflection of our past accepted beliefs. Don't base anything off of circumstances. Instead, go, ooh, I don't like these circumstances. These don't feel good. Okay, what do I want to happen and what would that feel like instead? And stay focused on that regardless of what your circumstances are showing you. This is how you shift. I hope this helps with the inner shift so that you can start to experience the outer shift. Blessings.